Are you and your family prepared for an emergency? Maybe the fake alien invasion. Now is the time to prepare yourself and your family for any event. Check out Prep Starts Now. Their mission is to provide high-quality preparedness products that empower individuals and families to be ready for any situation. They're committed to delivering reliable, trusted gear to ensure your safety, security, and peace of mind in times of need. Their product selection is carefully curated to provide you with the essential gear you need to stay prepared. From emergency kits to tactical tools, every item is chosen for its reliability and practicality. Prep Starts Now understands the importance of family, and their goal is to equip you with everything you need to build a solid plan for your family's preparedness. In today's ever-changing world, being prepared is more important than ever, and Prep Starts Now is here to help you and your family stay ready with quality products and practical guidance. Use the link in the description and get 15% off your order.
I think it's just going to get weirder and weirder and weirder, and finally it's going to be so weird that people are going to have to talk about how weird it is. Eventually people are going to say, what the hell is going on? It's not enough to say it's nuts. You have to explain why it's so nuts. The invention of artificial life, the cloning of human beings, possible contact with extraterrestrials, the systems which are in place to keep the world sane are utterly inadequate to the forces that have been unleashed.
Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Today my guest is Todd Cave. If you're looking for entertaining, enlightening, and spooky films to watch during this Halloween season, check out my films. Doors of Perception is on Amazon Prime. Occult Louisiana is on Tubi, Roku Channel, Apple, and more. We are booking guests for December. If you have suggestions or you'd like to be a guest, email me forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. Today I want to welcome back to the show Todd Cave. He is an online fitness trainer. He is also the host of the Conscious Man 7 podcast, where he explores ancient hidden history, spirituality, the evolution of human consciousness, fitness, and much more. Todd, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing well, mate. And yourself?
I'm doing excellent. Looking forward to getting into this with you today. You want to share your thoughts about recent, ongoing, and upcoming events and their effects on human consciousness. We now live in an age where we must unfortunately question everything we see and hear on TV and social media. I personally feel blessed that I am able to actually sit down and talk face-to-face with new people every day. So many different perspectives about the nature of reality, and get to share that with the audience is truly a blessing, because I get to enjoy different perspectives from real people, and this discussion isn't at the mercy of algorithms. So we can say whatever the hell we want, and it's a beautiful thing. You've got a lot to get to in your talking points. Before we do, briefly remind the audience a little bit about yourself and let them know how they can find out more.
Sure. So my name is Todd Cave, and I am the host of the Conscious Man 7 podcast. And over there, we talk about everything about self-development and the evolution of human consciousness. We get into the weeds on things like the Anunnaki, spirituality, health, fitness, social dynamics between men and women. And then on the daily, you can find me on Instagram at Adriano_246, because I am an online coach who helps spiritually inclined people burn fat and build muscle. So if you are interested in getting into shape and learning some cool calisthenic stuff, and also learning a different way to train and learn to cook and to eat food, because nutrition is probably the most important thing in our lives, because food is medicine. And we know that Big Pharma just wants to keep us fat, sick, slow, and unhealthy. So if you want to learn to take back your sovereignty, learn how to eat so that you can actually not have to go to visit the doctor and stuff, You can find me on Instagram at Adriano_246 or my name Todd Cave on Facebook. And reach out to me, send me a DM. Let's see if you're a good fit for the Compound Body Training Army. And yeah, I help people all over the world get into shape. And, well, in my coaching, we get to have similar conversations like what we're going to have today because people are realizing that everything is linked. Your mental state, your physical health, your mindset, all of these are things that are linked to you because we are really what you call a mind, body, spirit complex. And what that means is that you need to take care of all three of those parts of you simultaneously. We do that in my Compound Body Training program. And, I'm really proud of it because it came as an evolution of myself after I had life-changing surgery in 2017, which we spoke about on the last episode. And that program was basically built as a result of me having to put myself back together after pretty much getting an uppercut knockout punch in life. And pretty much almost everything that was valuable to me was taken away from me. So basically that program came about of me having to relearn about nutrition, relearn about training, and then the incorporation of a lot of the spiritual aspects because I was going through what I call my refinement period then. And a lot of the modalities and things that I had to do to put myself back together, I have put into that program. So it's very much a manifestation or representation of me, who I am, what I had to become, the journey that I've been through. And that's the reason why my clients get great results because it's been battle tested. And, the thing is that the mind, I think, is one of the least studied and the least understood parts of us because our mind is basically the gateway to our reality. It's almost like the code that creates the matrix that we live in, right? So yeah, that's what we do over there on the daily, and we helping people all over the world from Australia to Norway to the United States, even to Latin America. So we got clients all over the place. So, if you want to join the Compound Body Training Army, join the movement of people that are taking back your sovereignty, hit me up on my Instagram at Adriano_246 or my name Todd Cave. And also, if you like conversations like what me and Chris are about to get into, find me on the Conscious Man 7 podcast, available on all digital platforms. But I release my episodes first to Spreaker, and then Spreaker spreads it to everywhere.
Excellent. Like I said, there's a lot to get to today based on your talking points. It seems that the more you individually check out of the system, the less reliant you are on that, the more you can see through some of the high-impact events, and they don't affect you as much. Events like the Charlie Kirk assassination. You can also look at a series of events since World War II that were stepping stones for everything that has been achieved until now and the state of reality that we're in right now. But looking at the most recent event, Charlie Kirk's assassination, it's had a huge effect on human consciousness. No matter what you believe about the event itself, the outcome is there. And what we do with it is going to be up to us ultimately. But let's start there. What are your thoughts on that event and its effects?
Well, firstly, I think that while it is a very sad, tragic, and horrific event, I think it's a psyop. And so let me expand on that term. PSYOP just basically means psychological operation. What I mean by that is that events are used to shift the consciousness or to shift the focus of a people or a complete country or the entire narrative in a news cycle. So that's what I mean by the word PSYOP, because I find that sometimes when you use certain terms, they are misunderstood and people may think that you think that is fake. So I just wanted to clarify that because there's even some chatter that, he's not dead and all that kind of stuff. So my from looking at the tea leaves and looking at how things were just before he was assassinated, the whole Jeffrey Epstein saga was starting to really be a pressure point for the administration that we have now that is controlling the narrative. And I would say that it was very, very convenient that he was taken out, considering that there were a lot of things that were going on behind the scenes with regards to Charlie Kirk. Because recently he started to question certain narratives and started to be a little bit more open-minded and to even challenge his own thoughts and beliefs on things that he had said in the past. And what we do know is that when you take money from these very powerful lobbies, organizations, and groups of people, when you challenge what they say, they will take you out in some form or fashion. And what I also realize is that you are also censored or taken out depending on your level of influence you have on the public consciousness and in general in the world. So people like, for example, like Andrew Tate, whether you like him or hate him, what we do know is that he has a massive influence on young men. So whether you think he's a good influence or positive influence, if you put your feelings aside, what we do have is a lot of anomalies in his case, and he was attacked heavily in the media again because he has influence. Charlie Kirk, he has a lot or had a lot of influence on young men, I would say under 30, because he was like 31. So what we have now is the ages of men, young teenage men, right up to young adulthood, 30, that were sort of like being influenced by him. And he was openly starting to challenge narratives in Israel, the whole Zionist group, lobbyists, even the Jewish people, right? So I think that it was just a matter of convenience that because he started to challenge these things, the Jeffrey Epstein saga started to get to a point that was super uncomfortable, that people could see that from Donald Trump to Pam Bondi to Dan Bongino to Cash Patel are all basically frauds. They're all turned coattails, people. And I think that they needed something to change the cycle and something big enough as well. Then also, when you look at the date, it was the 10th of September from memory when it happened. So that's the day right before 9/11. And we know that these people who are occultists, which just means hidden, right? These people worship dark and hidden powers. They do things that are not for out of coincidence. It's all planned and state managed. So I think that it was a combination of factors to shift the public focus away from that, because I maintain that the Jeffrey Epstein saga is the biggest quagmire that the controlling elite have. And the reason why I say that is because every single body who's who that has influence, clout, in who is oligarchy, politics, central banking. All of these people are at the center of that saga, because we have from Mohammed bin Salman, we have Ehud Barak, we had prime ministers of other countries, presidents. We have people like what's his name, Alan Dershowitz, Bill Clinton. We have a lot of people that are at the center of that. And what people will realize is that there's a satanic cult that runs the planet based on extortion, guilt, fear, pedophilia, and all a matter of sex rituals that are performed to harness the energy on this planet to make it so dark.
Yes.
So, you know, I think that because it was so much pressure, even from people in the Trump base or the MAGA base or the right wing base, we're starting to think, well, hold on a minute, like, y'all are not delivering.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going on? So if you realize conveniently now, no one talks about that anymore. is all still Charlie Kirk. And then now with the recent, as of today, it was the Gaza Israel thing. But you know what I mean? Every time a pinch point occurs, they change a news cycle, and nothing is not done on purpose, because it is there to shift our perception and to hide things. Because ultimately, I think that there's a bigger, darker, and more sinister agenda being at play here, which we're going to get into, that I think is the real thing that they don't want us focusing on. That's my humble opinion.
Yeah, I think every event is multi-layered. There are multiple outcomes that are desired from any single event, and there are things that they put forward while everybody else is focused on these events. There are agendas that are getting pushed through that normally people would be up in arms about, but because there's so much going on, they don't pay attention to it, and it just gets installed in the background. And there's a lot of things going on with our currency right now, and crypto and CBDCs.
Yes, ultimately, I think that what is the reason for all of these psyops is that right now they're developing and building out a prison for us that will make it inescapable forever. Now, ultimately, these people are transhumanists and they want us to upload our consciousness to the cloud. But there are a lot of steps that they have to take in order to get us there. One of the things that I think is super key is the crashing of the economy. Now, I got into all of my understanding of the things that I talk about from the economic side. So I remember when I started to understand that what fiat currency meant, that the Federal Reserve is very little as Federal Express, stuff like that. And I see that what we're having now is a melting up of the economy, because what we're having now is basically hyperinflation, but it's being hidden. Because what we're having now is we're having real wages stagnating. We're having the purchasing power of all the currencies on the planet losing their value. And we're having record highs in all the stock markets across the world. The Dow Jones just hit 46,000. The FTSE, I think, 9,600. We have silver breaking the all-time high now of $50 that we just hit this week, or is it Friday? 1 2. We have gold that was at 3,800 when last check. Bitcoin hitting another all-time high last week, 126,000. These are melting up of the currencies, melting up of the economy. What that means for people is that our currency is being hyperinflated right in front of our eyes. So when we take our pounds or euros and our dollars to the shop to buy milk, eggs, and cheese, what's happening is that we need more units in order to get the same quantity that we were able to get 20, 30 years ago. That's why I say that we're having a hyperinflationary event. Now, what is also being done is simultaneously, while the currencies are being devalued, we're having these perpetual wars. This is why we have the war in Ukraine, we have the war in Gaza, because these are ways for the elite to funnel money out of the system, which we pay through with our taxes. And if people actually really study it, about 90% of all of what we earn is paid in tax. Because if you have a normal job, I don't know how it is in the United States, but in the UK, we call it PAYE, P-A-Y-E. I think it's pay as you earn. So PAYE is taken out of your salary. Then you have to pay another tax. Then when you get your money now, you have to pay council tax. Then you pay a TV license. Then you pay VAT, which is 20% in the UK. Then when you go to get your petrol, you pay tax on that. Then you go to the supermarket and you pay more tax. So in reality, 90% of everything that you earn is tax. So this is why I say taxation is theft. And this is why I believe that people should not ever pay tax. And if we were to have a tax model, it should be like how the United States had in the past, where it was just on imports like tariffs, and there was consumption where you pay at the till. So there was just a single broad tax that you paid at the till, and that was it. All other countries, when they had their massive prosperity, had similar approaches. But now what we have is this income tax and then all the other taxes on top. So, for example, I just sent some stuff to Barbados because I'm going there on holiday soon. And basically, you obviously pay for the freight, but then you pay tax, basically, and duties. Okay. Then you have to pay VAT on the taxes and the duties. And that cost is also dependent on the amount that it costed for the freight. So you're actually paying double, literally double of what your item costs, right? Now, Barbados is a small country, so you can see it much more in real time in situations like that. But this is what is happening to all of us every day as we pay, because even your light bill, your water bill, your mobile phone bill, you still pay tax on all of those. So we're paying tax on everything. So what it is now is that the war machine is being used to suck money out of the economy, because the lobbyists, the big corporations that put the governments in power, that's how they get paid. So they start wars, and the government gives the contracts to those companies, and there's no real bidding going on for the contracts. So all these companies, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, GE, they just get the awarded the contracts. I don't think that there's much bidding going on for the lowest bid. And we know that companies like Halliburton charged thousands and thousands of percent higher on just the kit and the food that they were doing to supply the United States Army in the Iraq War in the 2000s, right? So this is just a way of money laundering and sucking money out of the economy. And who pays for it again? Us. But because now most people are so distracted with the latest psyop, right? Like I said, these psyops have collateral damage. They're tragic and they're horrific. But because we're bombarded with these psyops, it means that we're not able to actually sit down and critically think to realize actually we're being played here. And then because we're in such poor health, we don't even have the ability to, go and research to alternative medicines, because we have to work so hard just to pay for the medical bills. So there's no time for even personal development. So what we have now is a situation where we're being distracted, and they call it magic. I always say that what these people are magicians. What they do is they put their hand over here for you to look at, and then over this side here is picking your pocket and robbing you. And this is what we have. So all these psyops are the visual distraction. And then over here now on this side, they're building this cage to put us in, because what's going to happen is when they crash the economy, then there's going to have to be a scapegoat. The scapegoat will be the bankers and the system and the illegal immigrants, everything. Everything will be the reason. So then now, because they already have the CBDCs built, they will come and tell you, look, we've got a solution. Here's our new currency. You'll never have to worry about anything. We will be able to surveil everything. So there'll be no things like pornography or money laundering or illicit drugs being sold, because we'll be able to shut down the wallets of those people, X, Y, Z. But what people don't realize is that by the government having total vigilance or surveillance on those transactions, it means that you're going to be able to be censored online. So just let me break down what I mean by that. At the moment, if you use your debit card or credit card and you go to a shop or any place to buy online, only your bank, you, and the merchant know about that transaction. The government does not know about that transaction unless you did a crime and then they ask to see those records because they're trying to solve a crime. What will happen in the future is that in real time, the government, through the central bank, will be able to see that you bought 2 kilos of beef from Tesco or Walmart or Sainsbury's or whatever. And then if they say, well, Chris, you've been a naughty boy this week. You spoke to Todd from the Conscious Man 7 and he got into conspiracy stuff. So we're going to slash your allowance for beef this week from 2 kilos to a half kilo. And you may say, but what about the protein? If you want protein, you got to go and eat bugs. So we'll substitute the 1.5 kilos of beef with 1.5 kilos of bugs. So that'll be your protein supplement, your substitute, right? Because they can see in real time that you, you spoke to me online, you were deduct points because it's a social credit system that'll be there. And then they would restrict the amount of produce that you can buy, right? Because the government will have total ability to see the transaction in real time. At the moment, the transaction is somewhat private because it is you, the vendor, and your bank. But the system that they're going to bring in is that the government will have real-time tracking. It will also be geographically located because if you are living in a state like, say, Florida, and you went to another state like Georgia and you wanted to buy beef over there to get it from the system and said, Chris, we realize that you live in Florida. You're only allowed to buy beef in Florida. You can't go to Georgia. So your access will be denied to buy from that vendor in Georgia. This is the kind of system that they're trying to implement, which is why I am sounding alarm and saying, look, all the psyops that they're doing to us is just to distract us from what is being built. Systems like Palantir are very, very influential and important in the building of the AI system, the track, trace, and database system to be able to monitor all the transactions in real time, right? So this is why it's a big problem. Now, I don't know if you heard that in the UK now, our Prime Minister Keir Starmer is saying that as of 2026, anyone that wants to work in the UK will have to have a digital ID, right? That is extremely chilling because that's the first step now for the CBDC, because your digital ID, which will have in your national insurance for us, the equivalent of your social security, it will have in your name, your date of birth, your national insurance. They can also put your driver's license number in there as well. Then that will also be linked to your bank account, right? Then your medical history, it can be put in there as well, because if you are anti-jabber, according to them, they would say, okay, well, Todd, we realize that you haven't taken your daily or your weekly or monthly prescribed amount of jabs. So we are going to restrict your access to your workplace because you've not been jabbed. So this is really what is being slow walked to it. So all of the migration crisis, all of these are psyops to distract us from what they're trying to do, because if people would actually sit down and realize this is what they were doing, they wouldn't allow it. But because we're being distracted daily, then this system is very, very quickly progressing. And basically, the next domino, I think, to fall is going to be the economic one, because I think that is the one that will really rile everyone up. And even the wealthy, they're going to be affected as well, because is the ultra wealthy are the ones that will come out on the other side, and not the wealthy. Because even if you have a few 100 million, we're talking about these people are trillionaires, these families, you know what I mean? These corporations, they're $1 trillion companies, right? They're not just like a 1 or 2 billionaire, you know, you can get wiped out as well, because this is a 1% of the 1% of the 1% that are the ones that are controlling things. So
it may be happening slower here in the United States, although it is definitely happening, but we need to keep an eye on places like the UK, Europe, and Canada, because it's happening much quicker there, and we can already see the effects of this.
Yeah, I find that Europe, for some reason, seems they're about 30 years ahead in terms of the United States. And it's almost like they test drive the systems on us first, and then they roll it out to y'all. And, you know, most of my listeners are, actually United States. And this is why, like, sometimes it is a little bit challenging to compute like the stuff that I talk about, because I lived in Europe for almost half my life. I I consider myself British. I am a British citizen. I love the UK. I loved my experience there, but we're heading for some really, really precarious times because I was just talking to my aunt literally yesterday, and she was even telling me, and she's a pensioner now. She's 67, and she was telling me, Todd, I'm a little bit nervous about this digital ID, right? Because basically what will happen is that they're going to force her to take the digital ID in order to get her pension, right? This is ultimately, they're not saying that now, but that is what it's going to come to. Because if you think about it, if you want to work, so before in the UK, it was simple. You need to have legal status to be in the country, and you need to have a national insurance number. That's it, and a bank account. That's it. That's all you need to work, because you can even get away with cash in hand. As long as you had a national insurance number, you're legally allowed to work in the UK. Now, that's not even enough. You need to have a digital ID, which will have all your biometric information. And then, because we don't actually have like ID cards in the UK, most people use their driver's license as their ID, right? So we don't have like an actual national ID. So this started to be rolled out first to like immigrants like myself. So even though I'm a British citizen, I am an immigrant there, and I went through the process of getting a work permit and then becoming naturalized and stuff like that. So I know that people who were not British citizens, they started this digital, they call it a biometric ID, right, at the time. So people that have residency and stuff like that. But that's been put on steroids now to be nationally, where everybody, including British citizens, will need it. And the excuse is because of the immigration. But this is the mad thing about it. So we have the conservative, which is the equivalent of the right wing, and we have Labour, which is the equivalent of the left wing. So we had, I think it was like 10 or 12 years of the Conservative Party. And this is the party that was supposed to be wanting to reduce the amount of net migrants coming into the country. So they had these very audacious targets. I can't remember how much it was, but it was like maybe like just small hundreds of thousands per year. Maybe, I think it was maybe like 100,000 or something like that. It was very ambitious. But in fact, when you actually looked at the real numbers after they left the government and during their government, it was like multiple numbers higher than that. And this is supposed to be their quotation marks ideology. This is supposed to be their thing that they ran on, their manifesto, their portfolio, whatever word you want to use. And the left-wing party is the one that wanted unfettered immigration. So you have the conservative that's supposed to be anti immigration, having high numbers of immigration. Then that government changed for the left wing, which is all about immigration. And it basically just continued. In fact, it got worse because we're picking up the migrants in the channel. So for anyone that wants to understand the geography, France and Britain are separated by the channel, and that's why we call it the channel tunnels going between. And I think it's only like 60 miles or something so in between us, or 100 miles. It's very, very close. Anyway, when the boats leave Calais, which is the closest port to is it Brighton? I think it is the closest one. Anyway, I can't remember now. But the closest port, our Royal Navy would go out in international waters and pick up these boats and ferry them in. It's freaking insane, right? Wow. So what we have now is a deliberate, what should we say, increasing of the amount of migrants in the country on purpose. Then blame the migrants there for the issues that we have socially. Then what we're going to do is that because those people don't have papers, they're going to be working illegally. So we have like apps like Deliveroo, which is the equivalent to like Uber Eats and all those kind of stuff, operating there. And a lot of those drivers are illegal immigrants. So now what the government is saying that for us to crack down on illegal working, because that's the premise, we're going to use this digital ID. But the thing is that they're going to still give the migrants digital IDs the same way. So even them as well are going to get caught up in the system, right? Because everybody is going to have it, right? So they're going to be used as a scapegoat, and then they're going to still end up being treated the same way as us British, us locals. And it's just going to be a way to have track, trace, and database on us. So then now what's happening is that I was even talking to my aunt, and she was telling Todd, you got to be so careful, even walking the street with your mobile phone in your hand. She says that guys rolling up on mopeds and literally just snatching your phone out of your hand. And we're talking like Westminster, Knightsbridge, Chelsea. We're talking about the West End, which for anyone who knows the West End is like the posh. This is the Fulham. This is the places where the bread is, and these things are happening. Then we're having people just like stabbing like mad all over London now, right? And we're having like real social issues. So what it is now is that we're having a phenomenon where people like Tommy Robinson are highlighting the issues. And again, Tommy Robinson, whether you like him or hate him, he's highlighting a particular fact that we have a problem with Muslim immigration, because most of the immigration into Europe and into the United Kingdom is men of military age and who are Islamic. And these guys have different views. Like, dude, Chris, this is mad. I saw a video where this guy, he got caught red-handed trying to talk to a girl. I think she was 14 years old, right? A young girl. And his excuse was that he needed sex. He has a right to have sex, and he just has the right to find anyone to give it to him, because in his culture, if he wants it, he can get it. This is a difference in cultures here, belief systems, just a way of being that is being forced upon us. And when we say anything about it, we're actually being we're sent to prison, because if you put any mean tweets or posts on Facebook, you actually do 2 to 3 years in prison for these offensive. And now they're calling things like non-crime crimes and things like catcalling. So like, I mean, like, I'm from Barbados. Back in the day, when you saw a girl in the street, you say, psst, you would do those kind of things. I mean, maybe you can say inappropriate, very much so, but it's not illegal. Now we have a task force of female officers that would go into areas where they suspect that men do that, to catch men doing non-crime crimes, so that they can give them verbal warnings for not committing a crime. Again, is it appropriate? No. Is it illegal? No. But they're still going to freaking warn you against it anyway. This is the kind of insanity that my country is having now, right? So y'all in the United States, y'all have something called, the First Amendment. We don't actually have anything like that in the United Kingdom. So it is called Her Majesty's government, or His Majesty now. It's called His Majesty's prison, and it's called His Majesty's police force. So they are owned lock, stock, and barrel by the crown, right? So it's the crown prosecution. So we don't have these abilities to somewhat push back and say these things. So what we're doing now is that we have phenomena like Tommy Robinson that are highlighting these problems. And whether you like him or hate him, the point that he's making about what's happening in the country is true. But because he has a checkered past, he's being used as a scapegoat for all xenophobia stuff, racism, XYZ, and we're not looking at the fruit of the tree that is causing these things. And we're all being played, and we're being put to fight against each other. And in doing that, we're all being systematically oppressed. So all the CBDs, the crashing of the economy, the sucking of the money of the coffers through taxation and war are all part, because what it will do is that when we are tired and exhausted, we will accept any system, because as we know, human beings respond very well to fear and guilt and shame. And what's going to happen is that when we all lose our money because the economy will crash, it's inevitable, because a fiat currency cannot last in perpetuity. And all fiat currencies have all failed in all of human history. And the United States dollar is the last one standing, and is only held by faith and band-aids, to be honest with you, figurative band-aids. But when it does crash, what kind of world are we going to live in? And this is what people are not really realizing is the biggest threat, I think, is economic, more so than the alien agendas, more so than nuclear agenda. I think is the economic, because as we say in Barbados, it's going to quarterback back our heads. Because imagine, Chris, like, you want to go to the shop just to buy milk and eggs, and the money is not worth anything anymore. Your card just doesn't work. If you don't have some sort of thing to barter with, some sort of crypto, some sort of precious metals that you can at least, silver is a good bet right now to have to barter and trade with someone in the physical. What we're gonna do is just gonna have a system of crime, violence, and looting and stuff. And it's dark days, man, coming for us.
Pretty concerning. Let's get into some of the technological challenges we may face with AI. You have in your notes, Android sex robots are on the rise. Talk a little bit about some of these challenges.
Yeah, so basically, AI is basically going to completely transform our society from next year. Now, it already is doing that, but I'm talking that it's going to have the same effect on us as the industrial age had on society. So the thing is with AI is that AI is going to replace about 80% of all entry-level jobs. And what we do know is that the vast majority of entry-level jobs are performed by women. So a lot of these data entry sort of type of like, virtual assistant sort of type jobs, secretaries and stuff like that, those are performed by women. So if AI now is going to be able to do those jobs, it means it's going to push a big percent of the workforce out of employment. So what I was talking about in terms of the economic collapse is all linked, because if the jobs are being replaced, it means that people then are going to be out of work. And one of the barometers of the economy is the workforce. So if we have people not earning, it means they're not able to contribute to society. It means it's going to make the society get worse and degenerate. But here's the catch now. Now, while this is controversial, it is true. Women have the luxury of using their body in order to make money and feed themselves, right? This is something that has been like this from the beginning of time, because men value sex a lot more than women, that men pay for it, and women have the ability to monetize it, so they do that, right? But here's the catch. Because of the rise of OnlyFans, a lot of these transactions are digital now. They're not necessarily in the physical. So what is also happening then is that women in, say, a perfect world would just say, okay, well, just start an OnlyFans account and I can make a living there. But the AI now is actually able to create those videos now and the content. So people that are able to program the AI and make this AI digital content will be the ones that will make the money. And I saw an interview with a guy who had 3 AI models, He didn't want to say specifically, but he said for sure he made 6 figures a month from 3 AI models. And he had his face all blacked out, voice changed, and everything like that. And he's just one guy making 6 figures a month, right? So what that does now is that allows him, because he is just a programmer, he can scale his business exponentially and have the programs to write the prompts for the AI to churn out more content than a physical flesh human woman could do, because she has to record it. Even if she has an editor, she has to give it to an editor to edit. The editor has to produce it. They have to check it back and forth, make sure this is right, the sound, everything. You produce videos, you know what I mean. It's still a back and forth you need to do for videos, right? Okay. So when you take the middleman out in terms of the editor, so he's going to get affected as well. She is not going to be able to eat now because she's not going to be able to produce the content to the speed that the AI can. And she's not able to have the conversations on the OnlyFans platform like the AI can, having thousands of conversations simultaneously. It means then that all the simps out there, the weak men, the soft men, are just going to be giving all of their money to these AI bots, right, for sexual pleasure, right? So it's going to disenfranchise women even more, right? So it means they know that, because obviously this whole AI revolution, the economy crash, will also affect men. It means then that you're going to have women who were able to depend on men even more alone, because they're not going to be able to depend on men now, because men, firstly, can prefer a digital version. Secondly, then even the men that are out of work as well, those women are not going to be able to rely on those men because they're also going to be affected. So then now it's going to get even worse now, because from next year, they're having the first available, I call them androids, but basically it's going to be a humanoid robot. Now, I prefer to use the word android because I'm a kid of the 80s and I used to watch a lot of Dragon Ball Z. So we had Android 13 and what's not in Dragon Ball Z. So I think it's a very good word to use, because a lot of people that listen to me are kids of the 70s and 80s as well, and the early 90s. So you're going to have an android, and basically the company that is producing these robots now are very proud of their production, because the polymer of plastic is so good that the skin feels like real skin. And you can customize these androids exactly how you want. You want a BBL? Done. You want olive skin? Check. You want big breasts? All right, no problem. You want full lips? No problem. So you just pay for the extra customization, right? And then here's the catch. You can download your AI companion into this robot. So what's going to happen now is that your same AI that you've been spanking the bishop to on OnlyFans, you can download that into your Android robot. So you will be able to have now the digital meet the physical with total pleasure, right? So women are even going to be even more disenfranchised, because men are simply not going to seek out women. They're not even going to seek them out for sex, companionship, or just a conversation, because the AI robot will know everything about them. The AI will know all their likes and dislikes. The AI robot will be exactly how they desire physically, right? It will not put on any weight at all, so it'll be a perfect body. And they'll be able to have sex with this robot, right? So what you're going to have is a total degeneration and debaucherous society that is going to spring up from next year.
I don't know how accurate it is, but I heard a recent study that says that people are having up to 50% less sexual encounters with at least humans and each other.
Yes. In fact, it is. I saw a statistic where it said that 30% at least of men between the ages of 18 and 30 are either a virgin or have not had sex or have had sex once in the last 2 years, right? And these are men with their highest testosterone between the ages of 18 and 30, basically being sexless. And a lot of them are just simply tapping out of the dating market because what's happened is that women have become a lot more, they have unrealistic expectations of what they want from men. And this is very much covered a lot in the manosphere and the red pill community, where women today are demanding that men have the 666 trifecta: 6 foot tall, six pack, and six-figure income. And the thing is that when you actually do the national statistics for most countries, only up to 10% of men actually qualify in those three categories. So we're talking about 90% of men, just by those parameters, are disqualified. So this is why in the red pill community, they say that most men are invisible to women. So because most men are invisible, or what has happened is that a lot of men have simply tapped out of the dating market and simply refuse to even pursue a woman, right? Because what happens is that you could be in the United Kingdom and you could work with someone and you could just ask them innocently for their phone number and you could lose your job for sexual harassment. So if you are going to lose your job for just, and mind you don't even have to have any sexual connotation, you just have to ask her for her number in private and she has to complain and you will be sacked because of gross misconduct, because well, that would be deemed as inappropriate, right? So if you are having this kind of behavior in the workplace, then what about in the private sphere where men would go to talk to women and some women are extremely rude to men, or they just speak to them very horribly or treat them very, very badly? Now, obviously, not all women, but there's a percentage of them that do that. Guys are just simply tapping out and not pursuing women. And I mean, like, I remember when I was 18, we were like, just partying all the time, looking for girls. It was just, once we started to discover girls, it was sports and girls and drinking alcohol, smoking weed as well. You know what I mean? So those are the things that we did as young teenagers, young men. But now the young men are simply on their phones, on their tablets, spanking the bishop and freaking watching OnlyFans. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna have massive social dynamic changes when you add in the Android AI robots now, where you're right, Chris. Like, no, we're simply not having sex because no, we're not coupling up. We're not even hooking up. We're just out the dating market for most men.
This also ties into depopulation. Obviously, if we're not having sex, there will be no children in the future. These things are multi-layered. They tie in together. Let's get into some of the other things you have here on your talking points. You highlighted a Mossad interview on 60 Minutes last year. I'm not sure if I've seen this. Can you tell us a little bit about what was on this?
Oh, yeah. So basically, I have said before that, everything in the world is fake and basically everything is manufactured. So there was an interview by 60 Minutes done in December, released in 2024. And basically, do you remember the episode, when I say episode, the event that Mossad did to Hezbollah where they tricked them with getting these pagers?
Oh, yeah.
And good. So there was an interview between two ex-Mossad agents and this lady from 60 Minutes. And they walked her through what they did in order to coax and to trick the Hezbollah into buying these pagers. And they did extensive tests on these pagers, and they did public marketing and programming, and they set up shell companies upon shell companies, and they even worked with a company in Taiwan in order to manufacture the pagers and everything, right? And basically it took them 10 years to even get that operation up and running. And there's a part in the interview, and I am going to literally quote what the guy said, right? Because this confirms everything that I've said, that nothing in this world is real. And I quote, "We have an incredible array of possibilities of creating foreign companies that have no way of being traced back to Israel. Shell companies over shell companies who affect the supply chain to our favor. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage." Unquote. Yep. That is directly from the interview, right? And these people now are letting the cat out the bag and telling us in our faces that everything in this world is fake. This is why I started off the show talking about psyops, how psyops are controlled, right? And there are few elements to the control system that we have, right? So one is the spiritual control. So I wasn't going to talk about this here, but I think it ties in very, very well to what we're talking about now. So the system, as I said, has many parts to it. And the spiritual control is held by the Vatican, the Jesuits, and the Lucis Trust, which formerly was known as the Lucifer Publication Company prior to 1922. It only changed its name from the Lucifer Publishing Company after it started to receive a lot of backlash and attention in the media at the time. Now, the media and information is controlled by Operation Mockingbird and the alphabet networks like MI6, CIA, and Mossad. Now, what I read before was a direct quote from what the guy said in the interview. And I repeat, he says, "We create a pretend world. We are a global production company." So you remember when Shakespeare, aka Francis Bacon, said, "The whole world's a stage and men and women are mere players." So even back then, it was known that there was an elite that control all the information that we receive from Earth. Because what people don't understand is that your thoughts and beliefs are based on your perception. Your perception is based on the information received. And if all the information that is received is controlled by these elite companies, elite families, and shadows behind the scenes, it means that what we think is true is actually not really true, right? Now, there's a very interesting song called Californication by Red Hot Chili Peppers. And he says, "Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement." And when you take into consideration that song to what I just read that they said in the interview, I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that even the wars that they show us going on in the countries that like Ukraine and Israel and all over the planet are not just in a Hollywood basement, right? Do people die? Yes, of course. Is there suffering? Yes, there is. But I do think that a lot of what we are shown is carefully curated and produced at a high production level. Just look at, remember the whole was it the White Helmets movement in Syria? That was actually a staged company that they were stage actors. We know that now because we saw behind the scenes video when they put on the makeup and when they went into position, and then when after the cameras stopped, they stopped being dead and came back to life and stuff like that, right? So then the other system that of control is our education. Our education system is controlled by the Rockefeller Foundation and UNESCO. So funnily for you, the Rockefeller Foundation took the system of education that we have now from the Prussians, which was the old Germanic empire of the 19th century. And they're the ones that introduced the whole bells in the schools and singing of allegiance and pledging of allegiance to your country and all that kind of stuff before your school, all that kind of stuff. So all of that indoctrination came out to the Prussians, which are which was the Germanic empire of that time. And Rockefeller just saw it after the Prussian Empire fell, brought it to the United States, supercharged it, invested all his money in it, and bam. And together with UNESCO, we have this system of education where now kids are coming out more stupid. The IQ levels are so poor that kids are coming out of school not even knowing the difference between a credit card and a debit card, how to read a financial statement, what it means to be financially literate, and to know that if you borrow money, you have to pay it back. You know, they're not taught how to write a business plan. They're not taught how to attend an interview. They're not taught life skills like how to cook, how to take care of oneself, how to, be responsible, to know, like, you have to have values of treating people the way you would want to be treated yourself. All these kind of things. They don't have any life skills when they come out, And the other form, which we spoke about before, of control is money. And money is controlled by the Rothschilds, the IMF, the World Bank, and the Bank of International Settlements. So these are the players behind the scenes that are causing all of these wheels to be spun for these CBDCs. They're the ones that behind the scenes sponsor all the crises, because ultimately is one cabal that are united in the complete subjugation and enslavement of humanity. And what they do is that they play us off against each other so that we're fighting against black and white and Indian and Chinese and trans versus straight and homosexual versus straight. And all they're doing is that they're causing us to fight against each other because of our quotation marks superficial differences, but not realizing that we all use the same money and our purchasing power is being eroded at the same time. So we could hate each other as much as we like. Our purchasing power is still being eroded, which means that we're all slaves, right? And this was very, very well shown in the pandemic because everybody was locked down in their houses. It didn't matter if you had money or not. Only the ultra rich were able to flaunt the rules because they were ultra rich. But the people that had money, they had a little bit of luxury because they could fly private, and I had a mate that he flew private and he told me it would cost like minimum $35,000 to fly private, right? So yeah, and he says that if you're going transatlantic, it's 50,000, right? Private jet. So, and I know mates that I have mates that have that kind of bread, right? So I have a little idea of what it costs. So they had some more privileges than us, but even they had still limitations because the ultra rich could rent out venues like what we had, like Boris Johnson, where he had that party in Whitehall for Christmas when we were supposed to be under lockdown, right? And he subsequently ended up having to publicly apologize for that, in the UK. So these are the people that can flaunt the rules. And the other system of control is our health and biology, which is controlled by DARPA, Big Pharma, and the transhumanist movements. So this is why you see that all of these bodies are in lockstep in terms of health and ideology, where vaccines are great, processed foods are the best thing since sliced bread, eating bugs will be the savior of humanity's food shortages, and all of these wild ideas, all of these people are all in connection with, because DARPA is I think it's called the Defense Department of Advanced Research Projects, something like that. They are the ones that fund a lot of do a lot of seed funding for Facebook and Twitter and even the AI and all that kind of stuff. They are very much the seed funders of all of these projects, right? And obviously with big pharma being tied in there, where they give a lot of they do a lot of black budget projects. So, for example, one of the reasons why Ukraine is such a very I would say it's very much fought over is for a couple of reasons. One, the Hillary Clinton emails, the 33,000 emails, they're on the CloudStrike servers, which are in Ukraine. The other thing is that they have these biological labs that they do illegal development of pathogens in places like the Ukraine. So this is why the is a very much a black ops, CIA, dark money country, which is why you have a guy like Zelensky who is a cocaine addict and an alleged homosexual that and comedian that is allowed to be the president of that country, right? Because he's just an actor, he's just a puppet. Remember what I said. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We are the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. It's all acting, guys. Yeah. Donald Trump is an actor.
This is also, in my perspective, a spiritual war. And it does seem that these factions, on some level, are trying to manifest some sort of biblical prophecy into our reality. Talk a little bit about your understanding of what they're trying to manifest, as in the spiritual aspects of the agendas.
So ultimately, the big picture, like I said, is to get us to upload our consciousness to the cloud. Because ultimately what we have is this, when this whole creation was created, we had source or the prime creator creating itself from form and void. And in order for him to, and it, because it is really, it is both masculine and feminine, to be created, it had to create the universe to create him itself, because you can't have something being in existence if there's not something to observe its existence at the same time. So you have this symbiotic, dualistic relationship where source manifests itself from form and void, but because there was nothing before form and void, source had to create a derivative of himself, which is the universe, to confirm his existence. Now, in that process, as source wanted to learn more about itself and what it is, it created derivatives of itself to understand what is this whole existence. And one of those things appeared to be the idea of, what if I were to separate myself from myself, and what would that be like? So it was just like a thought experiment. So you had in that thought experiment, which some people call the Lucifer experiment, which is where a consciousness was allowed to develop on its own without being tethered to source, which is the original. Now, in that concept, what happened is that because it was not tethered to source, it needed sort of like an energy source in order to maintain itself. So by default, it became parasitic. And in the development of that parasitic nature, humans being part of creation were seen as an energy source. So we were tapped into to feed off of. Now, in the beginning, it was just as a way of survival. But over time, what's happened is that in order to keep surviving, the parasitic nature became worse and worse and worse. So what ended up happening is that you ended up sort of hierarchies being formed. You have elite group families and all that kind of stuff that over time developed and manifested. So what has happened is that because now the indoctrination was put into these elite families, that in order for them to survive, because it's parasitic by nature, they have to suck the livelihood and the life source out of humanity. And the energy that they worship is vampiric and negative by nature. They have been doing all of these things on earth to bring in the world that they believe in, that their God, which is the darkness, which is lacking of light, which is lacking of love, is the real God. So what is happening is that all of these religions, control systems end up being created as a way now to protect itself so that it has a constant food source. But because now anything that starts from a not positive place will ultimately end up getting worse and worse by nature. This brings us up to present day present day today, where we have a lot of debauchery and the vampiric nature of the system, which is basically fed off of guilt, shame, fear, pedophilia, extortion, and all a matter of things that help to harness this dark energy, right? And this dark energy appears to be coming from Saturn, right? Now, Saturn is linked to Kronos, which is the keeper of time. And the Greek story of Kronos being that he would devour his children, I would say is very much a metaphor that over time, time consumes everything. Because over time, everything dies, everything has a shelf life, at least in this matrix, right? So what we have now is that we've had the Earth's healing and restoration inner codes and grids and ley lines that are responsible for how energy and frequency move through the Earth grid, which were ultimately hijacked and seem to be coming from this black sun consciousness Earth grids, which are also elementals, which appear to be very much associated with the Saturn's rings. You have the hexagram on the top of the planet, which is also known as the star of Renfran. Now, the star of Renfran is actually spoken about in Acts and Amos, right? So in Amos 5:26-27, it says, "You took up the tabernacle of Moloch and the star of your god Renfran, the images that you made to worship them." Now, Renfran was the representation of the star Saturn, which is where we get the word Satan from, which is actually the Star of David, which the Jewish people have as their star for their religion, which is also the star on the Israeli flag, which we were talking about Mossad, which these people are the people that control the information. So what we have now is this very complex system of Saturnalian bloodline families that are sucking the life source of humanity to manifest their God, who I would say is very much akin to like Marduk, sometimes Enlil, sometimes Ninurta from the Anunnaki pantheon. And this is the star Renfram, which was from Saturn. Now, funnily, the cube, sorry, I actually went a little bit step. So the hexagram can be folded into a cube, and the cube is also the same box that the Muslims worship. Now, Muslims will tell you they don't worship it, but that is actually false because they bow down to that rock in the Kaaba. And when you do a little bit of history, you see that the god for the Quraysh, which were Muhammad's people, they had a god called Hubal, who, when you do a little bit more research, came out of the Nabateans, which came out of the Mesopotamian area, which was also the had links to Babylon and Moloch and Baal, Beelzebub, Marduk. So in reality, that cult from Mesopotamia went down to Arabia, transformed itself into Ubal and to the cube, and they circumvolute that cube 7 times. And this is actual Black Sun satanic Satan worship that they're doing, right? And then when you take the cube and you unfold it, you actually get the symbol of the cross. So this is why even Christianity has elements of this black sun worship, which is why we worship on Sunday, right? And it is a solar cult worship, right? Because all of this came out of Egypt, right? And this is why you had in the Roman Empire, you had the time of Saturnalia, which was on December 25th, which was the rebirth of the new sun. And for 3 days, you had the death of the sun, which is why we worship the Son of God on Sunday. And this is why they changed the name of Yeshua to Jesus, because that is the representation of the new sun. Because in reality, Jesus is just an egregore, which is just a non-physical entity or thought form that arises from the collective thoughts, emotions, and beliefs from a group of people. Because the word Jesus never existed 2,000 years ago. It only developed from Yehoshua to Yeshua to Jesus in the last few hundred years, right? So what we have now is this solar cult black sun worship that has infiltrated all of these religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and has very much links to Remfran. So what all of these religions talk about is a savior. So the Islams believe that the Mahdi will come back. The Jews believe that the Messiah will come back. And the Christians believe that Jesus will be coming back. All three of the religions have a savior character and entity. So what these religions have done is they've basically said, Chris, you don't have to do any work on yourself. Just follow this religion, believe that your savior is going to come back to save you, and you'll be saved. Forget about everything about self-development, eating right, getting in shape, treating people a certain way. Just believe in the dogma and the doctrine. Believe that the Mahdi, Jesus, and the Messiah are coming back, and you're saved, right? So what this does now is that this takes your power from inside of you and puts it outside of you into an external character, right? And this is part of the parasitic vampiric structure that was developed when the thought experiment for the Lucifer project experiment, or when Source had the experiment to have part of itself separate from him to see what it'd be like. All of that is a manifestation of that experiment to where we have now, where we're so far down the line that we have no sort of concept that we're connected all in one. And Yeshua, when he came here, he came and he said, look, guys, just talk like me, do like me, and act like me. And you know what? You can be better than me. Because he said, greater things shall ye do. Now, a lot of so-called Christians, in order for you to be a Christian today, you literally have to disregard everything that Yeshua said and just believe what the pastor and the priest tells you, right? And this is the problem that we have, because, he said, I am the truth, the way, and the life, right? He says, eat of my flesh and drink of my blood. Now, that's not literal, that's figurative. It means consume this information, right? Drink it like if your life depended on it, internalize it, and be like me. Do what I do, right? And you will be saved. So this is the part where people don't get, because Yeshua also did say that he's not coming back, right? Because he said, if anyone says to you, look, here is the Christ, or there, do not believe it. So if they say to you, look, he's in the wilderness, do not go out. If they say, look, he's in the inner rooms, do not believe it, right? So even Yeshua told his followers he's not coming back, but yet still we have this belief in Christianity that Jesus, which the character Jesus never existed, which is why I always say Yehoshua or Yeshua, because that was his actual name in Aramaic, or Hebrew, he said, if they say I am coming back, don't believe them, right? Because the Son of Man, as he said, will come back like flashing in the east and shining in the west. And what that means is that it is global. It's a consciousness. It is people waking up to realize, oh, okay, I have the same spark of divinity in me that Yeshua had. He said, greater things I'm going to be able to do than him. So it means that I need to work on myself, get myself into shape, learn about the what I live in, what this matrix is, start to read books, expand my consciousness, possibly do things like psychedelics to help you access your fears and traumas, do things like meditation, listen to podcasts like the Conscious Man 7 and Forbidden News Network to increase my understanding of what I actually live in, right? These are things that people need to do in order to get that. No one's coming to save them. You have to save yourself, because Yeshua also actually said, pick up your cross and follow me. That is allegory for, look, you need to die to your old self and become your new self. And the death that happened to him, some people may physically die, but it was also allegorical to the dying of your previous self for you to be reborn. This is why he said that the only way to enter the kingdom of heaven is to be reborn as a child. And how does it, not necessarily a physical child, but childlike. Children are very forgiving. Children, very, very young, are very loving. Children are full of laughter. They're playful. They're joyful. They have no care in the world about, what people are saying on Instagram and Facebook and all these psyops. They're full of, they're just light in terms of, like, there's such a joy to be around. That was what Yeshua was talking about. So all of these are things about how the return of the Son of Man is going to be, because it's going to be a global consciousness where people are going to realize, hold on, you know what? I need to work on myself. I need to start doing some meditation, start to work with a guy like Todd, get into shape, increase my vitality, because your body is your temple. Your body is the vehicle that you take everywhere with you. When you increase your consciousness to a level where you're able to activate your Merkaba and come in and out of this existence, your body will be the vehicle that transports you to other realms, other dimensions, and other levels of consciousness. If your body is vibrating at a very slow pace because you've bought into the whole narrative of jabs are great, bugs will be the best protein source, and all the other processed foods are the best thing since sliced bread, you're going to believe that government is going to save you, which is the same sort of Messiah type consciousness that all these Black Sun satanic death cult things called religion have put into the consciousness of man, which is why people are so lost and separated from anything that is real, right? So that's what I mean in terms of the consciousness of the Son of Man, what the return of Christ really looks like. Because what people don't realize is that the word Christ just really means the anointed one, right? You anoint yourself with the prana life source energy, right? So what you do is you pour the life source prana energy, because prana is the life source energy of the world, as the Hindus say. So when you anoint yourself, with that prana life source energy, you are basically fueling yourself with the free energy that there is. You're causing your atoms and your molecules to vibrate higher. But there's a system that you need to use in order to get there. And the first thing that I would say to people is to get into shape, because getting into shape is the biggest rebellion against the system that you can do now. in order to take back your sovereignty. It is the FU to the system, it is the sticking the middle finger up at the system, because it allows you to take back your sovereignty in terms of what you eat. You are what you eat. And if you eat crap, you will be a crap person, right? You will have crap thoughts, you will have crap beliefs. And this is why I tell people that, there's an approach you need to take in order to push back against the system. And the first step is your diet, your fitness, and your nutrition. And from there, everything else will start to open up, because you have to start with yourself, right? If you don't start with yourself, then you're not going to be able to understand some of the higher level concepts that me and Chris are talking about here, because you're still eating Cheetos, Puka Pies, and Doritos.
100%. And my journey really started with my health as well. I wasn't able to make that spiritual connection until my body had healed and I was in a much healthier place. So that's spot on. This is great information, Todd. We've only got a couple minutes left. Any final thoughts to close out with, and also remind the audience how to find out more about you?
Sure. So my final thoughts are that even though today was a little bit of an information dump, what I would say is that I always try to show people that there's hope and possibility. And in fact, even though everything that I shared was quite pessimistic, I'm actually very optimistic for the future. But at the same time, I'm very realistic, right? So I must caveat that. I am optimistic that we have already won this battle. We are winning it and we will win it. However, there is a choice that we have. So the future, while we will win, it is still in our hands to choose whether we want to win or not, because this entire matrix is built off of choice. And even though it may seem like we don't have a choice, we actually do. But the elite families that control this planet, with the Anunnaki behind them, they make it appear as we don't have a choice and that we have no choice, because they use magic, as I said before, where they distract us with psyops and then they have the solution in the other hand. So they're picking your pocket while they're distracting you with shiny, glitterful things in your face. So what I am saying is that if the information that I said resonated with you, this is your opportunity to look to work on yourself. Sorry, look to work on yourself. And it starts with the looking into yourself. And the best place to start is your physical health. Because even if you think that everything that I said today is wild and completely out there, if you just start to say, okay, you know what, I take a lot of meds now, or I'm depressed and I'm sad, just start with getting in shape, because it is actually impossible to be depressed and to be basically in good shape at the same time. So what I mean by that is that if you are feeling depressed in this moment and you go and you start to exercise in the exact same moment, you will not be depressed, because you can't have two simultaneous thoughts of depression and one of exercise to push yourself and the endorphins being released in your body at the same time. So the depression thoughts will go away and you will be in physical pain because you've not exercised for a while. So your body will hurt and be strenuous. So exercise is the first remedy for depression. So start by looking inside of yourself, and most likely you're not in shape, right? You're either a super skinny person, or you're super fat, or you're in the middle. But the whole long and short of it is that I know that you're not doing real exercise that pushes your body. Start there, right? And then when you start there, you can start to look then at your food. Because if you're starting to do exercise by default, you're going to have better nutrition. So when you start to look at your nutrition sources, then you're going to start to realize, hold on a minute, with the food that I was buying, or I'm buying now, is actually laced with chemicals and a lot of nasties that are not good for my body. And then you start to realize that there's certain companies that own the patents on these foods and are the ones that put these products in the foods. Then that's going to open up your curiosity to learn more about the system and who controls it. Ultimately, is going to lead back to the Anunnaki and these 13 families that control the planet and stuff like that. So I encourage people and implore people that don't be scared. I'm just here trying to sound the alarm to say, look, it is a great time to get into shape and to work on yourself, because now it is easy to do this, because it is easy to do the difficult thing instead of waiting to do the difficult thing when it is difficult to do, when the system has crashed and we having to worry about where we can get food and do we have water and electricity, and you're not going to be thinking about getting into shape and doing psychedelics and meditation or reading books when you have to go out there and dig through garbage maybe for food, or you have to, not have hot water in a cold country and stuff like that, right? So do the difficult things now when it's easy, instead of waiting for when it is difficult to do. And we live in relative peace times right now, where we still have the ability to have conversations like Chris and I are having now. So, if stuff like that resonates with you, you're not too sure if you can do it, but you know that something inside of you is telling you, look, I need to make a change. I help spiritually incline people burn fat and build muscle. So reach out to me on Instagram at Adriano_246, or my name Todd Cave on Facebook. Send me a message. Let's have a chat. Let's see if you're a good fit for the Compound Body Training Army, because I'm trying to form a movement here, and we already have a movement of a few individuals around the planet, from Australia to Canada to Europe, that are getting themselves into shape and growing mentally, physically, and spiritually, and are pushing back against the system and taking back their sovereignty. And if you like conversations like this, you can also find me on my podcast, the Conscious Man 7 podcast. I upload to Spreaker, but you can find me on all platforms now. Just search my name and you'll find me. And, we also have conversations like this, where I also have cool guests on my show. And if you like the work that I do, you can also visit my merch store. We have some cool tank tops, hoodies, shirts, and sweats. And the Amazon store is called Todd and Me. And, support with our merch helps us to get great guests on the show, helps us to help with things like editing and stuff like that. And, that helps us to, keep the fire going, because, I do have an addiction to food and shelter. And, that helps us to keep that addiction going, and to help us keep putting out fire content. And then I also help people to, connect with their fears and traumas through the modality of psychedelics. So if you are on a spiritual journey, or you would like to start a spiritual journey and you would like some help removing some fears and traumas, I can help you with some magic mushrooms. So hit me up on my Instagram at Adriano_246, or my name Todd Cave on Facebook. And yeah, I'll help you to get those. And magic mushrooms are a great modality to use to connect with your higher self and to get messages and stuff like that. And then also another way you can support us is that I also have a Patreon or locals pages. So if you visit my Patreon, The Conscious Man 7, or my locals community, The Conscious Man 7, for a few bucks a month, you can also help us out if none of the things that I shared before resonate with you. And you would get some perks with direct access to me, early release of episodes, and behind the scenes stuff. Like, I just came back from doing an ayahuasca retreat in the Comancaya Healing Center in Felipe Carrillo, Mexico. So I did a walk and talk video there. So you would get the full episode on my Patreon and locals pages. Only the trailer would be available on the public platforms, because I get into a little bit of personal stuff, and I reserve all of those stuff for people that directly support me and stuff like that. So, if you interested in any of that kind of stuff and hearing my thoughts after doing some ayahuasca, head over to there and check us out. And yeah, Chris, as usual, thank you for having me on your show. It was really great to talk to you, and I wish I had more time, but I totally understand because talking to you is a real treat, my friend. I really, really like
Well,
talking
I
to you.
appreciate you coming on. This was fantastic information. We'll definitely do it again, get a little deeper into this. And until next time, everyone, have an excellent evening. We'll talk again tomorrow. We'll see y'all then.